In StarCraft 2 esports, there was one important milestone that had a great influence over the development of the competitive scene. When the game got released, some part of the player base, including the most experienced and successful StarCraft 1 Brood War pros, they just decided to stay in Brood War since Pro League was not ready to transition to the sequel. Effectively, it meant that the competition in StarCraft 2 was lower than it could have been. The Korean scene was vibrant and this nation still dominated the whole world, but the StarCraft 2 Koreans were not even tier 2 players in Brood War. So, what would happen if the best of the best actually arrived in StarCraft 2? This was a big elephant in the room for the first 2 years of StarCraft 2. What would happen to the competitive scene when dozens of StarCraft 2 Brood War players conquer it? Considering even tier 2 or tier 3 players from Brood War were doing extremely well at StarCraft 2, this could have been a complete game changer for everybody. And things started to unfold in mid-2012 with Pro League players transitioning to StarCraft 2. The highest expectations were put on the Brood War Bonjwas, namely Flash, Jaedong, Bisu and Stork, who were exceptionally great in Brood War. It all happened with a blast, the invitational tournament for CASP-only players, MLG Spring Championship. This was a glorious start for a new era of StarCraft 2 competition. Starting from Bisu, he had one of the shortest StarCraft 2 careers amongst other CASP players. In Brood War, Bisu was a living legend, a hero of the Protoss race, and possibly even the best Protoss player in history. But in StarCraft 2, it was a completely different story. He couldn't even qualify for a single GSL, even for Code A, and was only achieving some limited level of success in Pro League. It seemed as if Bisu never really enjoyed StarCraft 2, and having played only for 1 year, he retired in July 2013 to return to Brood War and play there again. Another Protoss player, Stork, who is also amongst the living gods of StarCraft, also struggled heavily in StarCraft 2. While he was considerably more successful than Bisu, he would never win any premier tournaments or even come close to doing it. Stork was doing alright in GSL though, claiming many top 32 and top 16 places, but in contrast to his Brood War career, it felt like a big downfall. He played much longer than Bisu, but eventually switched to being a Samsung Han coach by November 2014. Now, the remaining two players, Flash and Jaedong, had a much more interesting career in StarCraft 2. At one point, it even seemed like we were going to witness the same Brood War rivalry, but now in a new game. However, things turned out to be a bit different than expected. While both of them deserve a separate video, this time we'll just shortly go across their results when they transitioned to this new game. Flash, who used to be the greatest Terran player in Brood War, was nowhere near the same level of accomplishments in StarCraft 2. During his 3 years in StarCraft 2, he only had a moderate level of success. For some, that would be an amazing career, but certainly not for Flash, who was a Bonjwa, and with only one Premier Tournament victory, this was certainly far from the dreams that all StarCraft 2 fans had.
Alright, no Colossus this time. EMPs are the key to victory, and we're gonna see them landed on the 2 Immortals, 3 Immortals are taken down immediately, and those High Templar need to get in. They have to help, otherwise Flash will do this.
Has to be Storms, tries to get one down, but there's only one High Templar left. The Storm doesn't really hit the mark. This is a strong bio force here from Flash, who is looking to push on. GG! After everything that's gone through in StarCraft 2, the legend of StarCraft 1 returns to form. The resurgence of Flash is here. He takes his championship here in Toronto. He's the Intel Extreme Masters champion.
Jaedong, on the other hand, had a much better story, but even though he was far more successful than all other Brood War legends, it was still interesting to observe his struggles in 2013, when he had a second place curse like Su would have later. Jaedong was just unable to win any finals and would always finish second, even when it seemed that he had an upper hand facing an easier opponent, for example. However, 2013 was still a great year, but if you take a look at 2014 and Jaedong's results, it gets really painful. Like losing 0-2 at top 32 in WCS America to a Chinese underdog Jim. How is it even possible for such a legend? And that's not the only time such an upset would occur. What was the reason? Was it because all of the ex-Bonjwas got washed up and could no longer compete on that peak level? Well, many believe this is not the case. The thing is, StarCraft 2 and Brood War were widely different games that had a unique difference that made Brood War stand out. There is one big regret I have about Brood War Bonjwas, it's that they never tried to play Legacy of the Void. Most of them retired from competitive StarCraft 2 right when Legacy of the Void came around, and they never really had an opportunity to try the new revamped economy system as well as the overall pace of this new version of StarCraft 2. The game just got much faster and required more multitasking, and if you haven't watched our video about different economies, check it out. The problem that older expansions of StarCraft 2 had was the skill sailing. Don't get me wrong, StarCraft 2 is an incredibly difficult game, but there is only so much you could do in certain metas and under certain conditions. Lots of Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm metas were revolving around timings and strategies with many cheeses and all-in playstyles that were in the center of many matchups, take ZVP for example. Things changed in Legacy of the Void, where now you had to pay more attention to multitasking, economy and expanding, and the focus was just shifted to macro-oriented playstyles. This is the reason why the skill sailing rose so quickly. Previously, you would control one army on 2 or 3 bases, now it would be 5 bases and 3 armies and maybe a drop somewhere in the corner of the map. Even if you take a look at the abilities in this game, you would quickly see the difference between expansions. For example, in Legacy of the Void you have multiple chances with every move. Medevacs have a boost that allows you to escape when in danger, and the boost also got stronger in this expansion compared to Heart of the Swarm. And in comparison, in Wings of Liberty, if you fuck around, you find out. No second chances, hence more passive playstyles or just ultra risk, which also limits the ability to skillfully outwit your opponents. But it's also pretty obvious that even Legacy of the Void was nowhere near Brood War. In a game where even one Dragoon needs your babysitting attention, you just have to be extremely good. Every little micro-engagement would be different based on who is controlling the units, because the game had so many layers of difficulty. The difference between 2 players was crystal clear, and there would be no limit for growth, only massive, endless room for improvement in every single aspect of this game. And despite Brood War having literally 0 balance patches for decades, the game would still witness different champions from every in-game race. This was the main source of disappointment for many Korean players and Brood War fans. Up until Legacy of the Void, StarCraft 2 gave much less opportunities for such mechanical players, and they had less in-game moments to capitalize on their talent. Losing to things like Cannon Rush or other slightly brain-dead strategies must have been infuriating. So to me it feels like this was really the wrong place, wrong time. StarCraft 2 and Brood War were almost like 2 different RTS games with no connection between each other than they share the same universe, and thus many skills and intricate techniques couldn't simply be transferred to StarCraft 2. You need different things to grow in this game, be tricky and creative like SOS for example, or unpredictable and skillful all around like Life was. And now compare this to Legacy of the Void and the arrival of Serral and his long-lasting period of dominance. We couldn't really witness such things in other expansions because there was less space to grow and there was significantly more risk-taking. And that's why we never saw Brood War Bonjwas blossom, which is quite sad honestly. That's it for today. Do you think that Flash, J-Donk and Vista could accomplish more in Legacy of the Void? Leave your opinion in the comments, thank you for watching and see you next time.